I'm David Marsh. Welcome to Exploring the Human Journey.
Exploring the Human Journey.
Part of my karmic profile is to be a medium, meaning in my DNA I'm Irish and I was raised Roman Catholic. And the Catholicism lent itself to allowing me to feel free to express myself religiously through something other than Jesus, because we had the Virgin Mother, because we believed in the saints, because we believed in angels. It allowed me to expand spiritually more than a rigid-based religion where it was just, Jesus and nothing but Jesus. So as a little girl, I would speak to my guardian angel, and my mother allowed for that. She even set a place at the kitchen table at dinner time to speak to my guardian angel. So by doing that, she planted into my subconscious mind the idea that it's okay to talk to people that other people can't see or hear. I had a crush on a psychic and his wife, but it was a crush. It was definitely like a hero kind of thing. And I had invited them to my house for dinner one night, and he asked if he could tuck my children to bed, and he inappropriately touched them. And so then I said to myself, oh my gosh, this is all bad stuff. I need to stay the heck away from it. And I dropped it for many years and went back to very strict religious belief system. Went back to really strong Catholic roots, trying to figure it all out and balance it all out. But there was always a voice in my head that said, when you're 40, you can't help it. There's so many things I want people to understand about the work that I do. Most importantly, there is life after life. There is not a single person on this planet that can tell you exactly what it's about over there. It's filtered to us through our own egos, through our own karmic profile, which is nature, nurture, Akashic records, which is who we were in a past life, emotional maturity, and our own relationship with the law of attraction or God or the universe. No one can really say what it's like over there. But from what I gather, nobody's told me it sucks over there, so it's pretty awesome. And they all want us over there to know over here that they're fine over there, and to understand and conceptualize that our programming here has got to be shifted and changed because of the dynamic of where the world is going. And that spirituality has to start keeping up with the information age, or we're all in trouble.
Hi and welcome. I'm so glad you joined us this morning. My special guest is Melinda Vail. She's amazing. Melinda, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
I'm so excited to be here, David.
So fun.
I'm really glad that you asked me. We're going to have a lot of fun this morning.
Yeah. So we get to experience and explore your journey today. And I know you do a lot of work. I love that you're an evidential medium. Mm-hmm. And when we did your feature video, we kind of started in that impetus of religion. Mm-hmm. And you said that you were an omnist, is that the word?
I'm an omnist, which means that I believe that there are truths in all religions. There's basic truths in every religion. Now, I still practice my Catholicism. In fact, I went to church this morning and the priest gave us a great message today about forgiveness and honoring yourself through forgiveness, which is something so important in spirituality, as you know. But I believe that all religions have something to give to us, to serve us with.
Yeah, that's beautiful, because too many times we get stuck in the tradition of it has to be this way, rather than the spirit of, well, what is the growth? What can we contemplate on? What can we use for our inner journey, our inner strength? Give presence to your religious context that you were raised with.
Well, as Catholic, we went to church every Sunday. It was very structured. There are certain sacraments and certain things that you take as a Catholic. And as I grew up, I started to realize that my relationship wasn't through a priest to God, but rather through me to God.
Ah, beautiful.
So, the thing about religion is that you can be religious and not spiritual at all.
Beautiful, yeah.
And, I kind of figure it's like a peanut butter sandwich. Religion is like peanut butter. It can get stuck in your throat, even though it tastes good and can give you sustenance.
That's good, yeah.
And spirituality is like jelly. It can be too sweet, and you can get into that Fruit Loop and wind chime kind of stuff. But if you put it together and you have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, then you have a great sandwich. So it's kind of like combining or honoring what your spirit chose coming into this world as religion, along with spirituality. spirituality and kind of finding that balance in between. And I've tried to find that balance in between. So I practice my religion of origin. I don't go to confession anymore.
Yeah.
I've been divorced. I still take communion. So far, the church hasn't fallen over my head.
Oh, we're going to get to that. Oh, I can't wait. We're having fun there.
So, spiritually speaking, I think if you just practice the golden rule, you've got it made.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love how you've integrated that. Were you given the leeway and the liberty to experience your intuition at a young age?
My mom was pretty good at that. I'm Irish Catholic. And so, there's every ethnicity, every kind of religion, every person has a karmic profile from what we chose in this incarnation coming in. Yeah. And the Irish are known for their intuition, right? So, in fact, the Irish still believe in leprechauns and stuff.
Oh.
Today, yeah, I was over in Ireland and they're still talking about, leprechauns and stuff.
Well, I've interviewed a lot of people on the show that still believe in leprechauns, and they call them elementals. So
it's very interesting.
It's new to me.
It's really cool over there, to hear them talk about that, And anyway, she was pretty good with me having that, childhood intuition or seeing or hearing things from, beyond the veil that no one else could see or hear. I don't think it was until I was in high school that I really realized that it was a voice that came to me, because my future husband, the father of my children, was the big deal in high school, and the quarterback. And I was the nerd girl with the wing glasses, because we're talking about the 60s, right? And I told my friends before ever meeting him that I was going to marry him someday by seeing him across the hall in school.
That's my guy.
And then I didn't even meet him until 2 years later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Who knew I was going to get the booby prize instead of the prize, but that's okay.
Oh, I can't wait to unpackage that story either. We'll get there. So I guess my question is, that intuition that you had, you were able to trust that at a young age, because there are people, my story has also been such that I was not allowed to trust an intuition because I was told, well, that could be something that's false. It could be of the devil. It could be something that you can only trust a set of scriptures. You can only trust what is written down from thousands of years ago. That's the truth. And so then I was like, oh, well, it felt incongruent to me, the punishment for conscious eternal torment. It didn't feel right. So I wasn't allowed to trust that intuition. So I love it when somebody like yourself comes and you say, not only can I trust my intuition, I receive messages and then I can give those to other people.
But then I saw The Exorcist.
That's right.
Okay. Then I saw The Exorcist at a drive-in movie theater.
Oh, no.
It was at 1972 or 3.
Yeah, early.
Right?
Yeah.
And it scared the crap out of me.
Yep.
And then I said to myself, oh man, I better not listen to these voices.
There it is.
I better not pay attention to this. Is going to be a bad deal.
Yep.
So I stopped. Not only did I stop, but I scared myself so badly with all of it that I had to either sleep with the light on or have, my husband at the time was a psychiatric corpsman in the Navy, and he worked at a naval hospital. It was the end of the Vietnam War. And they would do swing shifts. If he worked at night, he had to send another corpsman over to the house to babysit me.
Oh my goodness.
I was scared to death.
Yeah,
that did me in. It did me in for years.
Thanks, movie guys. Exorcist and Jaws. That didn't help me at all either.
But you see that now, The Exorcist now, and it seems tame because things have advanced technologically to the degree where there's really, they
how much more can we freak people out?
Well, they really put the scare into you. But actually, that tapped into whatever the subconscious mind did with old Catholicism, and I got scared.
So then you begin to work through that.
Yeah.
And I love how you give presence to, you've had that thing where you're like, oh, it's starting to blossom, and then some fear comes in, and you're like, that's it, I'm out.
Yeah.
And then you said the same thing when you had met a psychic and his wife, and then there's an inappropriate touch, and you're like, back, there's fear again, I'm out.
Back.
Yeah.
And that happened like all in my 20s. There was stuff in and out all through my 20s. And so I didn't really start doing the work until I was in my late 30s. Now, all my friends tell me that I used to say things to them all the time, but I never had a conscious awareness that I was doing that. I do remember a scenario where I was a waitress in a restaurant, and a cook went past me, and I turned to we were at the break table, and I turned to a waitress with me, and I said, Tony's going to have a heart attack in 3. And she said to me, "Don't be ridiculous," and all that stuff. And I kept my mouth shut. I never said anything to him. He had a heart attack and died 3 days later.
Oh my God. What?
I was a mess.
Yeah.
I was a mess.
Because on the inside, you know that you knew something.
Well, on the inside, I felt a myriad of emotions.
Yeah.
Guilt being the biggest.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah, well, sure, because I thought to myself, well, if I'd gone and said it to him, would he have gone to the doctors? It wasn't until I studied and really got an understanding of how energy works on the planet that I knew I was given that information for a reason, but not to prevent him from that wouldn't have done anything for him other than to scare him for the last 3 days of his life. And so,
thanks a lot, lady.
But it took a lot to move that energy so I understood, and even now when people come see me, they say, "Don't predict anything that's scary." And I don't, unless they're, unless they're ready for it. I mean, spirit will filter that through if somebody has an ability to handle it. But if somebody doesn't have the ability to handle it, spirit won't filter it through. But you have to learn when you're getting all these thoughts. Well, I call them thoughts. They're like telepathic messages.
Yeah.
Okay, you have to learn how to use your discernment with them, and it takes a bit. And unfortunately, not everybody in this business is using their discernment, because I have people who come and are scared crapless because of something a psychic said to them.
I love how, as a psychic medium, you have the opportunity to give people information to help them on their journey, this karmic profile that we're all here, and certainly we're going to get to that. But rather than being a predictive source of, in the future, this will happen, tell me, will I, get this thing? You're able to give them information about their journey, where they are, and the things that they're holding on to. Give presence to that conscious work that you're doing.
Well, again, if you're opened up and you allow spirit to work through you, they'll do past, present, and future all at once, because there's no such thing as time.
Yep.
So, I've told more than one person that their daughter was pregnant before their daughter had a chance to, that kind of thing. Or somebody was going to be getting pregnant in May or whatever, and they do that kind of thing. Or sometimes you predict new jobs or, movement of energy that way. It's all done with allowance. I guess, surrender is the most important piece to work with your intuition. You've got to surrender to it. You can't let your ego get in the way of what you're getting. You just
welcome to the human experience. Don't let your ego get in the way. Okay. That's very challenging, I imagine.
Yes.
Because you come in with preconceptions, you come in with ideas, you got, I think this would be great,
Well, and then it's interesting because a lot of people don't get what you're saying for a bit. I do a Facebook Live show every Wednesday night from 6:30 to 8:30. I don't need to do that for my business. I'm booked and have been booked months in advance for many years. I do it kind of to give back to the universe. Not everybody can afford, just to see someone like me. And with Facebook, it allows for you to give readings. Long story short, I gave a reading to somebody and I got the word Thunderbird. I said, I'm seeing a Thunderbird car. And she said, I don't know what you're talking about. And then I gave her more things on the reading. And then later she emailed me and said, I just stayed at the Thunderbird Hotel, but it didn't put two and two together when you were giving the reading. So that will happen. And people don't always get what you're saying, or I was saying to a lady, who's Jim? I don't know, she said. I go, I don't know, I keep hearing the name Jim or James. I don't know, she said. We keep going through the reading. About 45 minutes into the reading, she hands me a picture of her father. I go, what's his name?
Oh my goodness.
Jim?
Let me guess. Jim. Yeah.
People, because they're overwhelmed a lot when they're getting information. They can be very overwhelmed.
And then the skeptic has their crap detector on 10 and they're trying to find some fault.
Oh, I love those skeptics.
Tell me that one.
Oh, give me a man who's a skeptic any day of the week to
Crossed
do a reading
arms,
for.
body language.
Right?
Go ahead, lady.
Because the truth is they have no expectations and their expectations cannot get in your way.
Ooh.
And it's when somebody has expectant energy or has the moon pinned on every word you're going to say.
She's going to tell me this.
That's when there is a more difficult time reading. Okay, so I went to a doctor once, and I never tell anybody what I do for a living because it's just really a pain when you're out there in the world, And
I'm a DJ. That's what I do.
For some reason, I told him, and he kind of looked at me and said, read me. And I said, how would you like me to give you a health reading? And he goes, Okay, I said, well, you got here, you've got this, you've got this, you've got. He's like, you're right. It was really hilarious.
He knew. Yeah.
But, you know, you don't, I mean,
Yeah.
that's not, I don't believe in doing that. Like, you
Yeah.
know, Long Island medium or seatbelt medium,
Yeah.
that's TV, people. It's not real. You don't walk around just giving people readings. It's inappropriate. It's like walking around and raping somebody spiritually. You just don't do it. Okay, that's all TV, you know.
That's good. Hey, I have information. I'm violated. Stop.
Yeah, you know, it really is. But think about it.
Yeah.
Think about it. You wouldn't have somebody that's come up to you out in public and start channeling your father if they were not expecting
Have
that.
you had a situation where somebody on the other side is tugging on your coattail so hard you're like, excuse me, may I give you? Have you had to give information like that?
Yes, but it usually happens when I'm giving a reading to somebody else.
Okay. Oh, okay.
All right. So I'll give you a quick example. I had a woman that came.
So
to
the other
see
person's like, hey, I want in too.
Yeah. She came to see me, and I said, "Do you know Josh?" And she said, well, I have an old high school friend who just lost her son, Josh, but I haven't been in touch with her for years, but I heard about it.
Wow.
And I said, well, Josh wants his mother to have the message that he's home safely. And the woman said to me, what am I supposed to do with that? I said, do what you will.
Oh, boy.
She called her old friend.
Yeah.
And when she called her old friend, they had a policy together that when the kid went home, that he'd call his mother and say, I'm home safely. So then Josh's mother came in, and actually, if I give anybody a story, they've given me permission. And actually, this woman lost 2 out of her 4 children, the brothers. And Zach also came and talked to her, and she's hilarious, and she has a good time talking to them, and it helped. Grief doesn't go away.
Mm-hmm.
It just shifts a bit.
Yeah, you can transmute the pain if you understand the reason.
Yeah. So then it really helped her. But see, Josh somehow found out about this woman coming in and dropped in and said something.
Wow, that is awesome. One thing I love, Melinda's got a lot of material that she's written. This book, I loved reading, The Diary of a Mad Medium. I love that you have Bill on the front there. Mm-hmm. This is such a fun read, and I love how you give presence to the karmic profile. For the viewer, for the listener that is sitting here thinking about, well, how does that apply to me? Give some presence to what karmic profile is.
Okay. So everybody has a karmic profile, meaning what our soul chose coming onto the earth plane. So we choose our parents, and we choose the circumstances of how we're going to be raised. So therein lies nurture. So if you have a parent that constantly criticized you, for example, that's part of your karmic profile that you have to work through criticism as an adult. Mm-hmm. You also have to look at nature, what comes through the DNA. So, of course, I told you I was Irish Catholic. So not only does intuition come through the DNA, but so does booze.
Yeah.
So we had a few.
You like to drink and fight. Let's go.
We have a few alcoholics in my family background. And therefore, my first husband was a child of an alcoholic, and my mother was a child of an alcoholic. So he and I were a match made in heaven because our vibration was the same. Okay, it's a vibratory essence of who we are.
You're
That's
passionate
what
in love and passionate in fighting, I imagine.
Right, that vibratory essence. The third one is your Akashic records, which some people understand and some people don't. Edgar Cayce was the medium. I'm not sure. He was called the Sleeping Prophet, actually, who talked about Akashic records. He actually read through the Akashic records in the subconscious mind, is what he said. And the Akashic records is who you were in a past life. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not trying to push my belief system on anyone, but I did a past life regression that was proven to me to be accurate.
Oh, cool.
And so I'll tell you about that.
Yeah.
And then the 2 other ones are emotional maturity. You have to be emotionally mature enough to accept your karmic profile in order to get through it. You've got to take responsibility. It's not about blaming parents. It's about what you chose. And you have to look at that and understand it. And last is how you interact with the law of attraction or, God, how universe, whatever you want to call the energy field of the all that is, So.
Yes. Now, I love how the very first thing you do is you give presents to, you came here, you have something you want to work out, and you picked your parents. I know so many people, myself included, we were given the narrative, hey, your parents got together in a passionate night and then you were born. You had no will or volition or agency, absolutely had nothing to do with it. And so then that gives me the opportunity to feel like a victim my whole life because I didn't choose to be here. Then if I'm given the narrative through a religious context that I'm unworthy and somehow I have to be made worthy to be with the divine, now I'm like, I didn't choose to be here. Now you're telling me that I don't get to go to heaven when I die unless I do this thing or that. Well, what if I get it right or wrong? I mean, there's all this spiritual anxiety. And you're like, no. That's not how it works. You are an eternal being. You are a soul that came to be here in this human body. Even that to some people is like, whoa, blow my mind.
You just explained duality. That this is a planet where our concept of heaven and hell intersect.
Yeah.
It's called the earth plane.
Yeah.
And so we can choose to be in hell here. We can choose to be in heaven here.
Yeah.
And that's the greatest gift that we got, whether we're on this side in the suitcase that houses the spirit, or whether we're on the other side. That gift of free will. Now, the suitcase that houses the spirit, we're supposed to unpack while we're here so that we get lighter, right?
The suitcase, you talk about that. Give good presents to that suitcase.
Because we're supposed to get lighter. We're supposed to go on the other side with less karma so that we don't have to reincarnate here. None of us really want to be here. We think we do, but we don't, right?
Try to get so we don't have to keep coming back.
So we don't have to keep coming back. But all too often we pack that suitcase fuller and fuller and fuller and fuller until we get to heaven so encumbered by the baggage that we have to come back to duality and do it all over again.
So my soul came here with this suitcase, and the idea is to unpack it, to learn my lessons, to learn the experiences I want to do, and when I get to the other side, to have an empty suitcase.
Correct.
Oh my God, that
and
is
to understand
amazing.
that you partner with God rather than God being a judging being that says, you've got cancer, you've got, this or that or the other thing.
Your life's good, your life sucks.
Free will that we are, a lot of times people come to me and they've had, oh my God, you can't believe how hard people's lives can be. Like, and I'll say to them, well, congratulations, because you have decided that you're going to get through a lot of karma in this lifetime, and you must be an old soul because you're dealing with so many things at so many different fronts, and you're doing it with grace and honor and integrity. Therefore, you don't have to come back here. So celebrate that life. Don't be upset by it. Don't say, why does things always happen to me? Say, okay, things happen to me for a reason, and I have to get through it and move forward.
Yeah. So someone like yourself that has had the easiest life possible, nothing bad's ever happened to you, and life's just been a bowl of cherries, right? Is that right?
Yeah, right.
Give presents to the journey. You have a whole list of former last names.
Well, I've been married a few times. I'm really the Zsa Zsa Gabor of the psychic phenomenon, or the Elizabeth. I prefer to be Elizabeth Taylor. She got a little round at the end like me, so I'll prefer to be Elizabeth Taylor. I worked out my karmic profile through marriages, actually. So, as I said, my first husband was a child of an alcoholic, and his father was a really great guy. But he was a vodka bottle under the bushes kind of alcoholic. He couldn't hold down a job.
Oh, boy.
And, therefore, you get your self-esteem from your same-sex parent. So my first husband didn't have very good self-esteem. We were young. I had my first child at 18. They had to, sign the papers for us to get married. We moved to New Jersey so he could work in Philadelphia. We couldn't even buy beer, but he was serving his country, that kind of thing. And it was a very tumultuous time. And then I ended up marrying a very nice man who worked at IBM. And
so I take it the first guy, it only lasts
divorced, 11 years. 11 years, 3 kids.
Wow, that's a pretty good run.
11 years, 3 kids. Great kids. Three great kids. And then I married the first nice man that came along because I was afraid to be alone with 3 kids, and I was only a waitress. I didn't have any formal education at all. I really couldn't support, my family. And he was a very nice man. And I was married to him for 6 months and realized I didn't love him. And told him, I'm sorry, I don't love you. And the reason was because he was too functionable for me, of course. Because I vibrated out in dysfunction from my family of origin. My father had post-traumatic stress. He was in the South Pacific in World War II.
Oh, wow.
My mother was a molestation survivor from one of her uncles. My grandmother lost her mother when my grandmother was 16. There's a whole history of dysfunction in my background. So this Casey is his name. He was too functionable for me. So I had a baby, got divorced, married and divorced all in 1 year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you took your 11-year experience and condensed it down to 1 year.
Yeah, I had my third child and realized that the marriage was never going to work. So I got divorced when she was a baby. And so that was that.
Wow.
And then I was single for a number of years. And then I married somebody named Walter Kuhlman. And he was a child of an alcoholic.
Back to that same vibration, right?
So the same vibration. Yeah. And actually, he was the one where I did a past life regression. And I said that I was in the Civil War, that I was going with the Union, that my brother was going with the Confederacy, that I was very upset with my brother for doing that. I saw us on a battlefield. I saw my brother get killed. A cannonball landed near my leg, blew my leg off. I went back to my home in Pennsylvania. My wife and kids took care of the farm. And at the end of the regression, the hypnotherapist said, well, who was the brother? And I said, it was my husband. So I went home and I said to Walt, I said, I had an experience on a past life with you today, and I would like to hypnotize you and see what you get. I did tell him it was a Civil War life, but I told him nothing more than that. I hypnotized him. He says, we're brothers. I'm going with the Confederacy. You're going with the Union. You're abandoning me. He says, you always abandon me. And P.S. I abandoned him again. Now, he was a soulmate of mine because 17 years after not speaking to him after the divorce, I felt something around him. So I private messaged him on the Facebook and said, hey, how are you? I feel something. Are your parents alive? And gee, while I've got your attention, I want to tell you I'm sorry for whatever my share was in the divorce. And he wrote back and said, no, my parents are still fine, but I heard your mother died, and I'm really sorry. Think of you often and want to tell you I too am sorry. 6 months later, he had a heart attack and died.
Oh, my goodness.
And so therefore, we were soulmates because I even felt his death coming, or I wouldn't have reached out to him after all those years. So you can have your soulmate in your life and still not have the perfect relationship. And you have more than one soulmate, by the way.
So when you get back to the other side after this incarnation, you guys are going to have a great conversation.
Correct. Yes. And it was interesting because he had moved to Maryland from here, and we found out that he'd passed away only a day after he passed away, which is really odd that we found that out because we had no connection. And a couple nights after he passed, and I don't get dreams because I work with the spirit all day. I'm kind of left alone at night.
Give her a break.
Let me sleep, you know. But he came to me in the dream, and he said to me, I'm safe, I'm sound. I want to tell you I love you, and I'll see you later.
Yeah. Oh, that is beautiful.
So that's, you know, I mean, so that was part of our karmic profile together, that we were supposed to come together and then apart again, because karma is a repeat of energy. It's not an eye for an eye the way the Bible says. It's repetitive energy.
Is it a balancing energy? Is that what it's like?
It's more like if I killed you in a past life, you wouldn't come back and kill me in the next one. If I killed you in a past life, you'd come back with me and give me the opportunity to kill you again. So Walt gave me the opportunity to abandon him again, and I did it. So we'll have to come back and do something again together.
Oh, wow. You got that to look forward to.
Either I do or he does. I don't know which. I'm going to be the man this time. I'm telling you what.
Role reversal. Oh, that is so good. So as this eternal soul, this being that we are, we have this vehicle that we're in. I love how some folks give presents like it's a car, and your body is, you can use that vehicle, and when it's tired and needs to be recycled back, you can get a new car and have a new journey. So you're here to learn or to experience something in your karmic profile that you want to work on.
Right. That car analogy is the best way to explain duality too. Because a car battery needs a positive volt and a negative volt in order for the car to move.
Yeah.
So do we on this earth plane. We need the positive and the negative in order for us to move.
Oh.
That explains duality perfectly.
Yeah, I love that duality, because you're right. It's either right or wrong, big or tall, there's all these, well, this one or this one, black or white, I mean, the list goes on. And we're here to learn something in this cosmic journey, in this cosmic plane of Earth. Have you had experiences where you've talked to people in other realms, extraterrestrial, other planetary things?
Well, that's an interesting question, because I bet you don't know that I'm on an Ancient Aliens TV show.
Oh, beautiful. I love it.
There was a man that had a UFO experience in the early 70s at an Air Force base in England, and he was an abductee. And I was on a documentary with him. I was his hypnotherapist. And I so totally believe him. So if you Google John Burroughs and Melinda Vail, you will see that on the Ancient Aliens TV show. John's been on 60 Minutes in 2020 and all of that. Over time, when I've hypnotized people who say they've been abducted, he's the only one I believe. But I actually have not had an experience myself to speak interdimensionally. I believe that there are interdimensional frequencies of energy, but I think one time when I was young, I did some work with some Arcturian energy, because I was following Norma Milanovich, who wrote a book called We, the Arcturians, a little bit. But I really decided to be a kindergarten teacher rather than teach college. And she was teaching college. I mean, understanding metaphysics at that level is very difficult. And a lot of Fruit Loopers and wind chimers go out in that realm. And
I love it you say that. It's so fun.
And I wanted to stay as far away from the Fruit Loops and wind chimes as I could, because I want to get mediumship and spirituality and psychic phenomena out of the closet and say to people, hey, look, psychic mediums can have all these marriages and screw up in their own lives because they have their own karmic profile. And you don't have to be, how do I say, I am a strong believer in connector with God and so on. But there are people who can connect to energy who are not good. Just like the Wizard of Oz, there's good witches and bad witches. And, people think that if someone's giving them information that's accurate, that it means that person's good. And that's how people get scammed by people that say, well, I'm going to take the curse off, and the egg has the red in it, and not, because the reader will come along in the mall and, give them accurate information. And, I had a young lady once that was so upset. She said, I gave her $10,000, $10,000, because she's supposed to lift the curse off me. And I looked at her and said, there's never been a curse on you, honey.
Oh, no.
But the woman was giving accurate information in the beginning, maybe as she started conning and moving. So you can get information and not be a good witch.
Yeah, everybody's on a different journey. That's one thing I've really learned after talking to a bunch of people, is that your soul is it's formed and created over eons and eons of time, but there's a differentiation in time and space and energy between all of us, and we're on different levels and different journeys. It's not just this, we're all here the same, and it's exactly what it was. I mean, in a religious narrative, it's, I've asked people, well, where were you before you were born? Well, I was nowhere. I was just, this is when I began, and whatever that year was, and this is how old I am. I've only been here. And I'm like, yeah, is that really what you think? Because you're this eternal being. And so if we each have our own journey, we're on different levels, we're on different stages of consciousness, how are you able to help? I love that you say kindergarten. How are you able to help people understand that it's okay if they're not the same as their neighbor or their spouse or their loved one?
Healing the inner child would be my simplest way of saying that to you.
Beautiful.
Because the information that we receive as children stays stuck like like Groundhog Day, like a revolving door of energy. And that's why I've had these multiple marriages. I've been working the same stuff out from childhood over and over and over again. as you start to clear any trauma, and a trauma to one kid may not be a trauma to another. And sometimes it's not just parents, P.S. Teachers can traumatize kids, other kids can traumatize kids.
Yep.
There are a million things that can happen.
Yeah, we've all got some voice from our past that said that one thing. Yeah.
Once you do the inner child work and kind of heal some of that and move it, then it opens the door to allow somebody to evaluate who they are in a sense of self-empowerment.
Yeah. So you get to learn, and you get to grow, and you get to make the choice. I love that you gave presence. Heaven and hell are states of being. It's not a place of destination. You get to choose. Do you want that heaven space right now? Do you want that hell space? And you get to journey through this life with that in mind.
Absolutely. The Eeyores in life, the victim people.
Yes. I don't know. It'll never work. Yeah.
They don't. They're a slave to their ego. They don't recognize and realize that they have free will and that they can allow themselves to get out of the state of victimization that has become their identity. But
so
by the same token,
yes.
I tease my husband about being a Mary Poppins because he had a very difficult childhood himself. His mother took her life when he was 5.
Oh my.
His only memory of her is her being wheeled out on a gurney.
Oh my.
When his sibs went to a stepmother and his father, stepmother hated the idea of having kids, was really, really, really awful to them. And so what my husband did in his consciousness was that he turned it around to have a spoonful of sugar makes medicine go down, and everything is happy and hunky-dory. And so therefore, sometimes he's not a realist. He doesn't have balance either. Sometimes he has to find that balance of how he's making it to how it really is so he can understand that part of the karmic profile. So, so it's very interesting how children take a situation and find a way to survive, some through victimization, some through other means, that kind of thing.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, I like how you got this picture here on the front with the two of you here. What I love about this book is you've taken those painful experiences in your past, those marriages that instead of saying they were failures, you said they were opportunities for me to learn on my karmic journey.
And you know what? I got to tell you, David, I love every single man I was ever married to.
Yeah.
And, the reason I love my husband the best is because if any one of those men were in trouble and I said to Bill, come, let's help, he would be right there helping.
That's awesome.
And, so it wasn't, it's interesting. One of the things that I learned in this lifetime was the different varying degrees of love.
Wow. Give presence to that.
I think that when you're young and you are in that throes of youth, you have this, passionate in love kind of energy. And when it begins to fade and move and ebb and flow into love, then maybe you get disappointed, and that's why people get divorced and things like that happen. What I have learned to do is to learn how to love somebody despite some of their flaws, because part of my vibrational frequency has been to attract either alcoholics, child of alcoholics, or people who've had some kind of disordered kind of energy. And because my mother was hypercritical person, I'm a hypercritical person. I love through criticism. So I've had to watch and learn how to do all those things.
Oh, you're such an amazing person. Here's a list of things that you should never do again.
You got me in a nutshell, just like that. Wear these slacks today, honey.
Yeah. How do I look? Well, let me tell you. Here's a list. You shouldn't do that. Don't do that.
Exactly. And so
that's how much I love you.
You have to. And it's actually learning to love self too.
Oh yeah.
If I didn't love myself, I couldn't say I was loving through criticism, because I would be too critical of myself to say it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. There's that part of once you're comfortable and you love who you are, maybe you don't necessarily pick out all the negative things in other people because you learn to be kind and gentle to yourself, I imagine.
Yeah. See, my mom was the kind of person that if she saw somebody that had the wrong outfit on, she'd be like,
hey, check that person out.
And Bill and I saw this man we're on the way to church now, okay? And there's this man had a black umbrella, long gray hair and a ponytail, one glove on, shorts, socks, and sneakers today. And I said to Bill,
that's a good look. Yeah. Bill, hey, new wardrobe idea for you, pal.
You repeat stuff from your parents without realizing it, So I don't know. But, the reason we are given relationships is to learn about self, not about the other person.
Oh, that's the reflection, the mirror.
Correct.
Like, this is what you look like through my personality. Yeah.
Correct. Or this is what my inner child feels love is, because that's what I got when I was a kid.
So good. It is so important to make sure that us adults who have children in our periphery, whether our children or grandchildren or nephews or nieces, to realize how impressionable. I have those memories of being a child, running up to Mom, look what I made. And she went, you ruined the thing that we were setting that out. And I was like, whatever that would be.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no. Then you feel the shame and you feel bad. And those things stay with you for a long time.
Well, David, I always say a bad word, but I'll say it with an M instead of an F. I always say to people, oh, you're so cute. I'm going to muck you up. Nobody does that with their baby.
That's right. Man, are you going to get messed up?
Hey, you're a kitty. Let me see how much I can screw you up.
Yeah.
We just do. You know?
We come here, we have this experience through those childhood lenses, and then we go into adulthood. And I imagine you have to do a lot of unpacking with people to help undo those things.
Sure, but that's why grandparents love their grandchildren so much. It gives an opportunity as you're grown up to look, and the kid took something and made something out of it that you're like, that's great, you know?
Yeah, I can really see that energy. I remember I had very loving grandparents, and they would tell me that they loved me and they were very kind. And my mom was like, make sure he does this, make sure she's in stress mode, because that's what parents do when they're young. But he was like, it'll be okay. And I remember having fun childhood experiences, doing something out in the cow pasture, moving the sprinkler pipes, and then he'd pull on it and I'd step in cow pie. I'd go in and tell grandma and he'd laugh.
Yeah.
And I mean, you get so much grace.
The greatest joy. We get our grandchild on Friday afternoons after school. And one day we were going to get him, and I said, gosh, I'm hungry, aren't you? And he said, yes. I said, let's pull him out of school early. So we went in, we signed him out of school. We took him down to the bar to eat lunch.
Yeah.
So my daughter's a social worker. So then I have to think, okay, I got to tell her. So how am I going to tell her? So I say to her, honey, we pulled Elliot out of school a little early today. And she's like, okay, Mom, how come? I said, well, we took him down to the bar. She said, I'm so glad you took my kid out of school to go to the bar, Mother.
Well, I was hungry. What can I say? Yeah, that's so good. I love the work that you do, the mediumship. You have had some amazing experiences, like working with law enforcement. And are there stories that you can share from that type of work? Sure.
I can only share stories where there's closure. I have a couple of things that I'm still working on that are kind of open right now. Sadly, I worked on a missing ASU student. And I got a call on a Saturday from a family member that said, would you come down here and work with us? And I said, sure. So I met the mother, and I get names and dates. I get exact information. And I knew he was dead. And I knew he was dead because he gave me two names. And I said to the mother,
are they still holding out hope that he might be alive at this point?
No, they know now. They found him.
Okay.
But I got two names, and I said to them,
at the time.
At the time, they think he's alive.
So they were holding out hope.
Absolutely.
And you already knew.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there was another medium, you notice I put it in quotes, that was there too. And I got two names, and I said to the mother, who's this and this? She said, that's his cousin and his father. I said, they're both dead, right? And she said, yes. And I looked at her straight in the eye. I said, that's who greeted him. Oh. And she said, you're telling me my son has passed away? And I said, I'm afraid I am. And the other medium's like, no, he's not. And he's this and he's that. And I'm like, okay. And then I got some other names. And the
other medium argued against what you were saying.
Correct.
Oh, my goodness.
And so it made me second guess myself. And I'm friends with James von Prague. I called James. And I said, see, what do you get? And he said, well, I just see him in the water in the weeds. I said, I do too. Okay, thanks, James. And the mother called me back because I'd gotten other names, and she had gone to the dorm at ASU, and all of those were the names that I had given her were the kids that he was hazing with. Oh. And so I talked to the Tempe police, and long story short, I worked with them a little bit, and then the mother called me after a couple of months and apologized to me and said, I'm sorry. I said, I totally get it. And because I was on the news, I was on TV a couple times for it. I started getting crackpot psychics call me. I got one woman from New Jersey who told me she was a medium, but she worked at the Turnpike taking tickets, but she knew that he had been kidnapped and that he was in this house and blah, 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 blah.
Oh,
And, you know, anyway, I was Christmas shopping that year, and I'd heard that they found his body. They'd found his body in Tempe Town Lake. So I called the mother. Mother lived in California. I called the mother, and I said to her, "Oh gosh, I'm so sorry." She said, "About what?" I said, hasn't the Tempe Police Department called you? She said, "No."
Oh no.
I had to tell her that her son was dead twice.
Oh no. Oh, lucky
I said,
you.
"Well, they found his body today, you know." So that was a case. Nobody wants to hear that, you know, and frankly, no medium wants to give that information.
Yeah.
So of course, our egos get involved in that. There was another case, Mary Ellen Resendez is a reporter I think she's retired now, but she was a reporter that worked with me a bit, and she called me on another case, and she said, "Oh, Melinda, the psychic is contacting these parents and saying that he's alive and he's standing and he's trying to get the helicopter. Would you see what you get on it?" And I said, no, he's passed. And so she was going to go and tell the parents, but they found him before that. You know, I don't like to work on cases like that. I mean, who does? Who wants to work on cases like that?
Well, it's work that you have the ability to help people in, but I imagine when you're in that space of love and light and sharing, it's just so much better.
And you know, frankly, I mean, there's a missing person, and her family came in before they found out that she was passed. And I also told them that she was passed. They're a very nice family. And I just can't find her. No one can find her. I can't find her. And so the family says, "Well, you got accurate information. How come you can't find her?" I don't know the answer to that. I don't know why I can't. Maybe she doesn't know where she is since she's the one that's talking to me. I can't find her. So sometimes people get really disappointed about that too. You're giving all this accurate information, but then you can't, you know. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just, it is what it is, I guess, you know. First time I ever worked with the police department, though, was the Mesa Police Department. And it was back in the late 90s. And I think I'm 64 years old now, so I was in my mid-40s, I think, at the time. And I had this young couple come to see me, and her mother had been randomly killed. And I kept getting this name over and over again. They said, "We have no idea who you're talking about." Okay, I said, got a phone call, answer the phone, and the police detective says, "You know, are you the psychic?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I'm a psychic." He goes, "Well, we know who that is that you've got the name of. Would you come down here and help us?"
Oh, wow.
And it was the name of the police detective where I felt there was a witness in one of the buildings. So I went down to the Mesa PD, and I wore a suit, you know, a skirt and a suit jacket. But they were all hanging out of their offices. Look, I think they thought Stevie Nicks was going to come with me.
Like a ghost coming across the floor.
And but it was the first time that I had to look at. I've had two since, but it's the first time I had to look at crime scene photos and things like that, which was And I gave him the information I had.
Not the Norman Rockwell poster you would like to see.
I gave him the information that I had, but you know what's interesting, David, is that the police will never let you know if you've helped them or not.
Oh, no.
They'll never call you back.
You want a scoreboard.
The only one time a Scottsdale female detective let me know. She wrote me and said, "Yes, I found my perpetrator where you said he was and with the initials that you said." That's the only time I've ever gotten any feedback.
Wow. Wow. Now, I love that people, they come to you. They can make an appointment. They can come to your office, and they have something they're looking for. They're going through grieving, or they're trying to figure out a missing piece to the puzzle. How do you help people, and how does the modality of mediumship work that you've experienced?
Grief never leaves us. It has, you know, sharp edges and dull aches. You know, it's like.
Yeah.
But when someone comes in grief and you've got the name of their mother and their mother's mother and Uncle George written down, and the fact that, you know, they had a special name for you or something like that, then it reassures people that there's life after life. Interesting thing about it, though, is James and I were talking about this when we did an event a couple years ago. If somebody came to see me and said, what was the nickname that my mother called me? I couldn't get it. It has to just come floating through, because all of a sudden, again, you're an ego. You've got an ego on the earth plane. And, so it's not like having a conversation like you and I are having a conversation. Okay. And so if somebody just lets it ebb and flow, with that ebb and flow, I got a nickname for a young lady yesterday. It was a very unique nickname, but not until the end of the session. And then she was like, yeah, that's what my mother used to call me. But she never stopped me and said, what did my mother call me? Because when people do that, they want that kind of proof. It kind of freezes the energy. People don't realize it's a flow of energy. So to answer your question, when you're getting evidence that your loved one is alive, then hope resides with the grief. And it makes it more palatable.
I love that on your website you've got this wonderful picture of you and James Van Praagh on stage at an event. He's written material that has so been a benefit to me about the soul and the karmic journey. And so I loved that you and him have worked together, and now he's a friend of yours. Give some presence to that journey that you've had with him.
It's so funny. You have to give James a reading, or you did in the old days. I don't know if you do now, or if he just puts people through his school and puts them up on his website. I don't know. But in the old days,
it's like a test.
You had to give James a reading before he put you up on the website, right? So I gave him a reading, and
it's a tough way to get free readings from people, right?
Isn't it? That's James.
Become world famous.
You already got James's personality, huh? So I gave him a reading, and we hit it off, because James and I both use humor to keep people's vibration up in order to do a better reading. You can't be Debbie Downer saying, people are going to cry anyway. But even when people are crying, I still kind of joke with them.
To lighten it up a little.
My grandson said it the best. He was about 3 years old. He was playing restaurant. And he came to take my order, and he asked me for my name. That's how much his mother goes to Starbucks. And I said my name, and he stopped. He goes, oh, I've heard about you. And I go, is that right? What have you heard about Grandma Elliott? He said, well, Grandma, I heard you have a very important job. I said, is that right? What does Grandma do? He said, well, Grandma, you take people in your office that are crying and you make them laugh.
Oh, so beautiful.
So James and I met on that plane of helping people with humor as well as that. And he came into town, and we met. And so then he would come into town, and we'd have lunch or whatever. And then he had his best friend call me for a reading. And when his best friend called me, it was that line from the movie, he had me at hello.
Oh, yeah.
I fell in love with his best friend, and he with me. And we had a great time. And so then James called me once, and he said, you got to come down here. I'm like, James, I've got a full schedule. You got to come down here. I got a surprise for you. You got to come down here. I'm like, okay. So I came down, and he brought Peter and Elliot, Peter's husband, with him. And I met Peter and Elliot for the first time and spent the afternoon with them. And then they invited me to their house for a week. And I went to their house for a week, and only knowing them for a couple hours, two strange men. And I had the best time ever. And so we all became friends that way.
Yeah.
So it just kind of was one of those serendipitous. James and I are very similar. We're both Virgos. We're both raised in upstate New York. We both come from a Catholic background. We both come from some dysfunctional stuff. It's very similar energy.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that when you find that person, you just like resonate. You feel like your souls have known each other for a long time. That's beautiful. Your gatekeeper to have access to you is this wonderful man on the front here, Bill. Now, I would love to hear his perspective. How do you feel about bringing Bill on camera?
I'm always happy to have Bill next to me.
Okay, we're going to take a small pause. We're going to bring Bill on camera, and I can't wait to see what Bill's perspective is.
Neither can I.
All right, we've got Bill on set. Now, Bill, this picture has your face covered, right?
Just like this. Recognize me?
I can recognize you. I love it. So give me your perspective of this wild woman, Melinda Vail here, and how you guys met and this whole journey that you're on.
We just started at the very beginning.
Yes, because this is
She walked into my shop.
Yeah.
I looked at her, And I said, "You make me vibrate."
Wow.
I had no idea on the face of the earth who she was.
That's a great pickup line.
I've franchised it throughout the United States, doing real well on my residuals. And, it just, it was from that moment forward. But she invited me to an event that she was having
No,
sometime
you
in the
always get
future.
that wrong. I did not invite you,
Well,
Karen.
male, I'm not supposed to get things right.
Hey, when you're a dude and there's a hot chick in the room, you're invited.
So anyway, we end up at an event together, and we're sitting in the back row together. She wanted to be a participant at this event that was going on. She and I kind of paired up, and she began telling me all about me. And I'm looking at her thinking, this is wild. This is
Sunny
amazing.
Dawn Johnson does a really nice exercise where she has people connect by looking at each other. I had my tribe with me. It was my event. I was going to speak after her. And so I thought I should sit next to somebody. And honestly, it was divinely, inspired because there was only one seat and it was next to him. So afterwards, I'd rented a house in Sedona because the event was in Sedona. And all my girlfriends were like, "Oh, we saw that." They were carrying on. They were doing girl things, carrying on.
You get to have your name on the list of Melinda Vail / So this karmic profile, how is that connection between the journey you've had, the journey she's had, and now where you are at in life?
Oh boy, she talks about how things, relate back to childhood and how you have to work through. And a large part of the program with Karmic Profile is waking up and paying attention to the stuff that happened to you many moons ago, happened to your parents. You look at the generational aspects, the DNA aspects, the nature, or rather a nurture, culture, the whole thing. You roll it together and you begin to actually open your eyes and figure this out. This is where I'm at in my life is... the eyes are now open.
He also was, I'm his fourth wife. I don't want anybody to be fooled that he was a virgin.
He was a 40-year-old virgin when you met him.
So he went through some marriages to learn about himself too.
Wow, that's great. So you guys have had these multiple opportunities to learn and to grow, to find out different lessons from people. I mean, sweet lady Gail and I have been in a relationship since we were 17 years old, and we've enjoyed our journey, which is much different than getting...
Because her name is Gail, it vibrates out.
Yes. You shared that Gail was, she said, all Gails are nice Gails. I love that.
All names hold a vibrational frequency. Oh, wow. That's why Jesus changed Simon's name from Simon to Peter, because all names, that doesn't mean that when you're in the metaphysical world, though, that you change your name to, Melinda Songmoon or something like that. No, Vail is my real name, but all names hold frequency of energy. And
I love how you look across the veil, spelled E-I, but your name is Melinda Vail, A-I. I love that.
Yeah.
And so this journey that you were on, you knew there was a vibration, there was an electricity, there was a chemistry. Your souls had a contract to meet, I imagine, on the other side.
Absolutely, without question. And at this particular point in our lives, because we both had to chase parked cars before we realized that hurts. Stop it.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So the work that Melinda is doing, you're facilitating, you're helping to coordinate and organize. I know you took a trip, you did a European trip. Is that something you can talk about?
The European trip was more vacation and enjoyment.
Cool.
But it was
looking
really
at old
fabulous.
stuff.
Yeah, but I got sick. Because I went into Nazi headquarters and downstairs where they held the prisoners, and I got immediate bronchitis because lungs means grief, I felt all that energy of all that past stuff. So I did get sick. So that probably wasn't the smartest choice. Smartest choice for me to take that.
The Nazi headquarters was in Cologne. And it was the old building, the actual building, and they had not refurbished it since 1945, or the place where they held the prisoners. And you could see the writing on the wall that the prisoners had left. And they would take 200 people and stuff them into a room just about this size.
Maybe even smaller. Yeah, it was sad. But work-wise, we are on our way to Texas. We're going to do Houston. We're going to do Dallas.
Yeah. And that's going to be a whole lot of fun. Branching out, we have North Dakota coming up. Lots and lots of trips, lots of different events.
My favorite place to go, North Dakota.
And, I would like to talk just a little bit about my beautiful wife and her intellect. Doing...
She's like, please, tell me more.
I mean, did you see her? It made me chuckle.
Oh, beauty and brains? Oh, I'm all there, she says.
Tell me more. Yeah.
So, the mediumship work, that's wonderful because she does it with Christ-like compassion. That's great, but I really do not think that is her best foot. I think her best foot is as a teacher. The book, I think the best review of this particular book is that it is simple, but it's not. It's a fun read. It's exciting. You whip through it, and you think, I've got to do that again. I've got to do that again. I helped with the editing. I think I've read the book maybe 40 or 50 times. And each and every time there was something new to edit, something new to stop and ponder over. So simple, but it's not. And she teaches karmic profile by essentially throwing herself under the bus. There are a lot of people that'll write self-help books and tell you how to help yourself. She says, no, this is what happened to me. This is how the bus backed over me. And doggone and here are the lessons. She's a teacher. She's a teacher, number one.
I never read the book. I have never read it.
That's true.
I wrote it. I did write it. I wrote every word, but I've never read it. I never watch myself on TV. I never, no. I don't like it.
Isn't that interesting?
So the only book that I really like to read is my children's book. I've read that.
Tell me about that.
Well, it was so inspired because I would get woken up in the middle of the night at about 3:33 every night, and I'd have a
333. That's an angel number. Yeah.
I'd have a rap song in my head.
Oh, as you normally do, I suppose.
Yeah. Old white woman writing rap songs in the middle of the night. That would be me.
What's up?
And it's an anti-bullying children's book. And my son actually did all the illustrations, and they're skeletons with different poses of different things. And it's called If You Could See Inside of Me. And there's a bully's rap, like a rap from the bully. I like to be a bully on account of my dad. That kind of thing. Wow. There's a rap on a gay child, a dyslexic child, on Facebook bullies, fat, homeless. There's a number of raps on that. And so that's the only book that I like to read.
That's cool.
And the intent behind that is to peel away all those different layers that people will attach. They look at you and, I've got an opinion. I'm thinking of you this particular way because of this specific appearance.
9-year-old kid that killed himself in Colorado because he came out as gay and his group of friends made fun of him. That just happened, a couple months ago, honey?
Yes.
Yeah. No, it's frustrating when we don't understand that part of the journey. And that's why I love giving presence to your work. Now, you've got a lot of events you do in the Phoenix area. I've seen that you've done things with Emil Faith. He's a medical intuitive. Tell me about the experiences when you partner with other people.
I love to partner with people because if you do it right, you feed energy off of each other. But Emil is a lot of fun to work with, and we've had him on our Facebook show as well as we've done this event and another event, I think, with Emil. Yes, and we're going to do something in New Mexico with him coming up.
Cool.
I've done a couple events with James von Prague, oh gosh, I just met a medium from out of Canada that's a really fine young man named John Crowley, and we did some work together. Wonderful, wonderful. He's going to explode. He's so good. So it's an interesting business, though, David. Not everybody's collaborative.
Go ahead.
Some fear and scarcity involved in there.
Some fear involved on, it's interesting. I'll do it this way. When we were in church this morning, the priest was talking about a certain passage in the Bible where the disciples were arguing about who was the best. And Jesus basically said, knock off your shit and, behave yourselves. And unfortunately, there's a lot of ego in this business. And it's unfortunate. Yeah. And so a lot of ego and competition. That's why I appreciate people who collaborate.
No, it's not only a collaborative thing amongst mediums that she works at doing, because she wants to take it from, so many people look at mediumship work and say, oh, it's a carnival act. No, this is a healing process. And not only is it a healing process with mediumship, but also when you're in collaboration with other professionals in the mental health field, in social work, medical field. All of these can come together And mediumship is one of those legs that holds the stool up, because the other three do a nice job, but you put the fourth one, you have stability and you have foundation. And that is the healing mechanism that actually addresses all aspects of the human suitcase on the inside and the out.
Susan Gra and I both volunteer once or twice a year for something called Eric's House. Eric's House is a agency to help with drug addiction and suicide prevention. And she and I both volunteer and give Night of Life After Life demonstrations, and all the money goes to Eric's House. I've done that for the SOS group, done an event, and all the money went back to suicide awareness and that kind of thing. I think that's really more important than anything, is to do the give backs, and some mediums are great with it and some not so good.
I love your web presence. For the listener and the viewer, give presence to your website. MelindaVail.com. She does a Facebook program on a weekly basis at 6:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, in which she takes phone calls from the viewing public. Melinda Vail Medium, Facebook. And she answers the questions and also does a lot of healing. And there are quite a few different stories that have come out of that.
Too.
Yes.
On my website, there's an interview between my son and I. And I think that may be what you were thinking about.
Well, I've seen all of that presence. Your website is great because there's a lot of resources. People can listen, they can get information, they can get your experiences. You've done a great job of just trying to be a give back to the universe, of showing people, look, there is life after life. There's life between life. There's life before you got here. And you're just giving this karmic journey, this karmic profile that we come.
It's an eternal aspect. And one of the other things too that she addresses on her website and through her YouTube channel is differences between men and women. I know there are differences, particularly when it comes to grieving. Men grieve differently. And bringing this out and placing it in a forum where you can actually have discussion, understand it, take it out, and see that men are different. You know, we're going to be stoic. It's fine. Everything is real good. But on the inside, boy, it's nothing but churning with pain and hurt and sorrow. But on the outside, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. I'm fine.
We had 4 interviews on our website with men that had, let's see, 2 of them had lost sons, one to suicide and one to texting and driving. And a man that lost his wife, and then a man that lost close colleagues. And the wives would watch the shows, and even though it had been years since, I'm going to use the 2 guys that lost their children, although it had been years since they lost the children, the wives got something out of the interviews that they never knew that their husbands felt before, because they don't always talk to each other. You know, oftentimes that kind of grief causes people to split.
And then that also brings up the whole concept of counseling. A little bit of counseling can go a long, long ways. A lot of folks say, I'll just have a drink, we'll get over it, and it'll be fine.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Wow.
I'm from Texas, of course, so I'm going to say that.
So we have barbecues and beers.
There you go.
So fun. Thank you for being on the show. I had talked to Emil. Emil Faith has been on the show before, and he said, Dave, you've got to talk with Melinda Vail. She's the real deal. She's amazing.
That's sweet. He's got a beautiful bride.
Yes. We love Sue and Emil. They're favorites. So I'm very grateful. I reached out. Bill, you and I got to have a conversation and do some organization. I love how you're working together as a team. So it's not just one person trying to do everything. You're helping to organize and to create a space where Melinda can do her work. And I remember even before we filmed the feature interview, you're like, well, she's in her space. She's kind of meditating, taking some time because she's got a little bit of space. And it just worked out great. We had enough time to get in there, have a conversation, and you help facilitate that. So I love that you're working together doing that.
I love my wife.
Sometimes we fight about it.
I can't imagine a couple ever fighting. I have no idea what you're talking about. So as we end the show, I love to have the guest give their perspective on if there's one thing that people took away from this episode, it is this thing. So Melinda, I'll start with you. What is that one thing you want people to know?
To know themselves. If the one thing that you need to know is yourself, and you don't know yourself by the car you drive, the house that you reside in, how accomplished your children are, what your relationship is like, you know yourself through your karmic profile. So know yourself before you leave the earth plane, because I promise you that when you're off, you're forced to.
Beautiful. Bill, on your journey, as you have gone through things, you've got a whole box full of lessons you've learned. What are those things that you would love to leave the audience with today? If there's one thing they took away from today's episode with Melinda and yourself being on here, what is that thing?
To read and to learn what metaphysics is. It's not a carnival. It is real. It is the essence of who you are, who you were, who you will be. Your soul is eternal. Get a grip.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love it.
He's got a little New York thrown back in him,
I
you know.
love it. I love it. MelindaVail.com. You can find all the information there. Reach out. Find your karmic profile. Find out how you can have your own journey. Contact Melinda and be a part of just growing and going forward on this wonderful process.
Thank you.
Thanks
for having us. Thank you.
High five.
I'm David Marsh, and you've been watching Exploring the Human Journey on YouTube as a video and listening as a podcast. If you would like to help continue the conversation, please consider supporting us by visiting patreon.com, where you can support us on a monthly basis and get extra bonus content. For as little as $1 a month, you can make this show sustainable and help continue spiritual consciousness. You can also help by following us on Facebook and Instagram. For more information about the show, find us online at exploringthehumanjourney.com.